All right, guys, what's up? It's Halsey Scheider with the Helicopter Podcast, and we are recording live from European Rotors. Very excited. I've been in the industry for a long time. Not as long as some, but I've been in the industry. And, you know, HAI, now VAI,
Correct.
is obviously an organization I'm very familiar with. We're a member at for my sales business.
Thank you for being a member.
Of course. But that being said, I'm actually not super educated on VAI. So I'm super excited to introduce Cade Clark to the show. Again, we're live from Europe. Before we really get into it, Cade, what's your impression of the show here?
Oh, it was great. Great energy here. Happy to see so many people. The booth, a lot of activity.
It really, you know, it feels like there's a good energy.
Absolutely.
I felt it yesterday. I have to say, you guys killed it with your opening ceremony this year in Anaheim. Like
Right.
the violin.
Right.
Like, that was awesome. Like, that was energy.
That was energy.
I think
indeed.
if I had any feedback for European Rotors next year, is that type of energy. That was like exciting.
I like it. I like it.
I don't know who came up. If that's your idea, that you're a brilliant guy.
My colleagues, but
You have to pass that on because that was.
will.
I remember we're talking in the lobby, having a good
Right.
time, and all of a sudden, like you hear this violin. And I love violin. It's like a beautiful instrument. But I'm like, where the heck is the violin coming from? And then I look up, and behind me, there's like this beautiful woman playing the violin and dancing, and
Right.
it was incredible.
Only the best.
Only the best for the helicopter
That's
industry.
exactly
so I
right.
mean,
Exactly right.
just incredible. But yeah, the energy here is good. Forgive me because I'm ignorant to, again, what you
Of course.
guys are up to and exactly what you guys do, and that's why I'm excited to have this conversation. But what is your guys' involvement in European Rotors?
Well, first, thank you for having me on. I
Of course,
appreciate it.
yeah.
And it is great to see so many people here. And like you said, the energy really is great. So as Vertical Aviation International, we are the show provider
Okay.
for European Rotors.
Okay.
So
What is that? What does a show provider mean?
So obviously we're working in partnership with EASA,
Okay.
EHA. They're putting the program together, but we help. What you see here is the work that my colleagues do
Okay.
to make this happen.
So you guys are very integrated.
Absolutely.
This is
Working as a stakeholder with our good partners here in Europe.
interesting. And how long has this show existed as is with you guys in your involvement?
We've had that for a couple of years now.
Okay. Yeah, last year was great. We were in Spain last year. It was a lot of fun. We weren't podcasting live from Spain. So
This is a good addition this year.
This is a step up.
Right.
HAI was actually this past HAI, which I can still call HAI then, right? Because it was still HAI.
Go for it.
VAI, of course, now, and I want to talk about that too.
Right.
But we had podcasts from the show in Anaheim, and it was awesome. I mean, it's such a fun thing. I love when I'm podcasting, looking around, just seeing the industry. You know,
Right.
these are the people.
Absolutely.
You know, this is what makes up the industry. So your role at VAI, what is your background? How long have you been at VAI? Just a little bit more about you.
So I'm Chief Government Affairs Officer is my title.
Okay.
So I'm in charge of the government affairs program for the entire industry because VAI represents the entire industry. So for VAI, our government affairs, we oversee basically the international, federal, state, local level. And that government affairs involves reaching out to our elected officials. So legislative work, regulatory work, making sure that the industry's voice is heard by our representatives.
It's, I guess my question then is like, your background specifically, is it in helicopters?
So I actually came from an aviation family.
Okay.
So when I was knee high, my dad was a pilot. Actually, going back, my great-grandpa flew in World War I. Grandpa's a pilot, dad's a pilot. He ran an FPO. We basically ran charters.
Very cool.
So I grew up in the aviation industry, went into more of a government affairs role. And the past 7 years, I've been working here in the association, being able to do policy for aviation.
Interesting.
Vertical aviation.
And you guys are located in Alexandria, correct?
That is, we are a global association, but our headquarters is in Alexandria, Virginia.
And I'm just thinking about it now, but is that strategic location to be close to Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely.
I don't know. That just literally popped in my head like, oh, they're in Alexandria.
We are right there. Exactly right.
That's interesting. So essentially, members like myself and others and these shows and things like that, the money that is spent there is to help fund you guys to be able to go and advocate
Absolutely.
for the industry.
Oh, absolutely. That
both
is our role.
domestic and international.
That is correct. Absolutely.
So looking at the domestic side first in the United States, what are some of the biggest pressing issues that you guys are really excited about trying to push into a direction?
No, great question. Well, I think and these issues actually transcend from international too on safety issues.
Okay.
That is really a big issue for the entire industry. VAI puts on a number of different safety programs, which we're excited that we're rolling out a couple of new programs for the SMS to help implement that. So safety is obviously priority number one, right? So it doesn't matter which country you're in, it's safety.
It has to be.
And so those programs that we're pushing out, we're very excited about and pushing that to really help elevate safety. And then from a more of an industry perspective, right, we have these new technologies, new aircraft coming online with AAM. That's very exciting to see how that's rolling out and making sure that we have basically harmonization of regulations. You can't have one country doing something and not being able to export that technology, export that aircraft. So really working with the different authorities to making sure that we can have harmonization so that the industry can move forward.
It seems like a lot of work. What is like a day in the life for you? What is it? What does your day look like? How are you having these conversations? How are you building those relationships? I mean, how loud is your voice with our elected officials?
That is a great question. So every day is different, and that's what I love about government affairs. We can have something very local come up, or we could have something obviously international. And that's a great question you asked about how loud is our voice. Our voice is as loud as our members work with us.
Okay.
So nobody cares who I am, but when I can go...
I care.
Thank you.
He made a ball joke in the beginning, though. That was a little... I have a really nice shaped head, though. You have a nice head of hair. That's impressive.
Thank you.
At breakfast this morning, we were talking about, I want a hair transplant.
Oh, I
want to have hair.
There we go.
So if you're watching the episode, let me know if I should have hair.
But you look good.
Thanks.
But nobody cares who I am. But when I go to a representative, a regulator, somebody, right, and I can say I represent the entire vertical aviation industry, suddenly they care.
Yeah.
So it's really important for our members, the entire industry, to engage with their elected officials wherever they are.
Sure.
With their representatives. As the industry continues their strength and building those relationships at a grassroots level, that helps us better represent the industry. But to answer your question from a day to day, we are actively reaching out to legislators, state, local, federal level, and working with the regulators, daily meetings, calls, you name it, showing up to their offices. That daily interaction is critical to be able to move the industry forward.
One of the things that we talk about on the show is like this idea that maybe the public doesn't fully grasp helicopters, right? There's a lot of, I call it helicopter hate.
Sure.
And for good reason sometimes, right? They're noisy. They can be dangerous. There's been some very high-profile accidents in the very, near past. But I try to explain to my non-helicopter people that helicopters play such a vital role in not just our local economy, not just our country, economy, international economy. It's everything. Utility, air medical, you name it, and there's probably a helicopter that supports whatever that mission is, right?
Absolutely.
Or whatever that economic need is. How much do our elected officials understand helicopters? Do they get it?
Great question. Some do. We like to think of it as the sound of service, right? What you just called noise, we'll say the sound of service.
The sound is, you don't like the sound until it's picking you up on the highway.
That's exactly right. That concept, I think people have not understood how directly related they are to helicopters. When you turn the light on, right? Electricity's coming into your house because somebody strung up those utility lines.
Yeah.
You're putting gas in your car. It's because somebody flew out to the platform to make that happen.
Yep.
People don't understand their actual connection to the helicopter industry. And so that's part of our job, is to educate our elected officials so they understand the impact that they have on our industry.
Yeah. And do they get it, or does it take, I mean, obviously there's a revolving door sometimes. I mean, we got some longtime politicians, and maybe that's a different podcast, I think.
That would be a different podcast.
We should talk about that. By the way, we are recording on election day, so that's also, I don't know. I think
there's a few bags.
I do want to talk to you about that a little bit without being too political on it,
Sure.
of course, but we will get there. But like, how do you approach, say, like someone that's coming new into office? How do you introduce yourself? How do you introduce us to that individual so they can actually grasp the idea that helicopters are really not just necessary, but a vital tool, a vital heartbeat to our economy?
Well, that's why VAI exists, right, in the first place, is to have that interaction between the elected officials, the regulatory bodies, because without that, there is, we'll just say, ignorance, right? They just a lack of understanding.
Sure.
So it really is, it comes down to personal relationships. Going out, meeting with the elected officials, meeting with their staff, taking them out. What I have found to be most effective is actually bringing them out to operations, letting them see firsthand what our operators are doing.
Totally.
I talk to them about safety. I'm talking to them about the programs that we do until they actually see it in action. That's when things click.
Yeah.
They say, oh, now I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And having them
touch
see
it, feel it,
absolutely
smell it.
Exactly.
You gotta know it.
Exactly right.
You gotta figure that out. You gotta see it. You gotta go. I would maybe put them in the helicopter. Go do a little
absolutely.
flying.
Yeah, doing an educational flight is absolutely critical so they can see what we're talking about. We actually just took a congresswoman out to one of our members, and it was great so she could see the maintenance that was going on, the amount of people that were there, right? So they understand the economic footprint that we have and the seriousness that we take our jobs.
Yeah. When
they can actually see the people working on things, they can see the dedication the employees have, that's when things click.
That's cool. I don't know if this is part of what you guys are looking at. I'm sure you've obviously been hearing about it, but recently with the Hurricane Helene that rolled in and really, affected North Carolina and other spots, there's been a tremendous outpour of helicopters.
Absolutely.
Private owners, some operators. Unlike anything that I've ever seen. We were talking about it here at the booth yesterday. I guess maybe during Katrina there's maybe some similar stuff, but I was young and I wasn't part of the industry then, so I wasn't paying attention. I guess from my perspective, it seems like there's something not quite right with that whole situation, because I feel like it's great that helicopter pilots are stepping up and doing their thing. That's awesome. Like that's humanity helping humanity. But is like the government also helping?
So great question. And I think that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about the sound of service, right? I think we also saw in Hawaii with the tragic fires. The first people who were there were actually the air tour operators bringing in the helicopter. They're using their helicopters to bring in supplies. We were there before anybody else. And I think that is the beauty of what our industry can provide. We are there, as you said, that human touch we want to provide, we want to serve. And because we are there, when we have the vertical capability, we're the first ones there. And we have that opportunity before larger government services can roll in. I think there's always going to be a certain amount of lag before that larger service provided by the government can be there.
Sure.
And as our members, our operators are already there, they're stepping up and serving their neighbors, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. We talked about helicopters having a bad reputation. This type of scenario, to me, is great for us.
Literally saving lives.
I think it's a win. It's great, not only from the human side and the lives that are saved, but just from the perception, right? It's helicopters have in my opinion, sometimes a publicity problem, right?
What role do you see them in movies, right? Something's crashing, something's blowing up.
Yeah, they're blowing up, they're doing crazy things.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's not the real world.
No, it's
there,
completely not.
As you just said, saving lives, bringing in needed supplies. It's that public service role that we provide that is often just overlooked.
So this past year at Anaheim, I think you celebrated 75 years
That's correct.
of HAI at that point. First off, I didn't even realize helicopters were that old.
We've been around.
That's crazy. Who knew? I'm curious to hear, and that was actually cool because the original conference, the first conference, was in
a full circle
Anaheim.
life.
So full circle. What is kind of the history of the organization? How did it come to be? Who was some of the founding fathers of this?
Sure.
A little bit of a history lesson.
At Astronautics, we're aviation problem solvers. With over 60 years of OEM and retrofit experience, bring us your toughest avionics, connectivity, cybersecurity, and system challenges. We'll work with you to find an innovative, reliable, and quality solution. We turn problems into solutions. Visit us at astronautics.com.
Yeah, great question. So as you said, we started off with just a few operators there in California, and as the industry has grown, so has the association. And I think that goes to really our name change as the industry has grown, as it's evolved. We have evolved and grown with it to help meet the demands of our industry and of our membership. And that's I'm very proud of what we've been able to do to reflect that change as we've grown as an association, providing more member services and providing more services to the industry in general.
Yeah, I forget too. I got to give a shout out to one of your guys. He's an accountant at VAI. I'm forgetting his name right now.
Accountant
he
Wayne?
does like Wayne. Shout out to Wayne.
Shout out to Wayne.
Wayne's been awesome. So we exhibited a couple shows, and Wayne was awesome.
That's great to hear. Member services at its best.
Exactly. Now, speaking of members, obviously members make up the organization, right?
Absolutely.
It's
yes.
hopefully the most important part of the organization.
That's what we do.
What does that membership look like? Is it do you guys share public figures of how much membership and broken up kind of between operators and just helicopter users?
Yeah, so we're open to the vertical aviation industry. So our members range from the OEMs to the operators, basically anything that touches a helicopter or a vertical aviation aircraft is part of our members. Suppliers, operators. I will say our focus is more on the operator side.
Sure.
But obviously it's more the anybody in the industry, pilots, mechanics. There's even a student category. So we want to be as broad as possible to bring in the membership.
A lot of my listeners are actually students. They're guys and gals that are starting.
This is your home. This is your home.
And this is actually why I'm doing this show, because admittedly, again, this is not a squash on VAI.
Sure.
But for me personally, I just wasn't ever that familiar with the organization and what it meant. And I think, again, it's, when you're a student pilot, you don't really know anything.
Right.
And then if you're
focused on just your next lesson.
But
right?
one thing that I've always kind of kicked myself in my helicopter career is I never took advantage of I didn't go to my first Heli Expo until I exhibited. And that was, in Dallas just 4 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was. And so it's my understanding that there's a lot of really good resources for guys and gals that are just getting into the industry, job fairs, symposiums, training.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a question about the industry, if you are interested in participating in the industry, Verticon is the place to be. And that'll be in March in Dallas this year. The whole world comes to Verticon. And this is really where somebody, as you said, a student can meet mentors. We have career fairs. We have all sorts of different safety programs, safety training, different classes to further advance. You don't have to be just a student.
Yeah.
You could be an advanced pilot.
Sure.
And come and learn new skills. Many different classes there to learn. But also, what's more important is coming together as a community. You have, just like this, just magnify it a couple times. It's a huge footprint.
This is better.
It's definitely grown.
This
Absolutely
is really
grown.
cool to see. I think it's HAI is a different VAI. Excuse me. I get a hall pass for a little bit,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
A
couple years.
It's it's a bigger show, but I feel like European Rotors is
absolutely
getting there.
And that's part of the role as the show providers to bring that along. Absolutely. And what you're seeing here, I've seen some college students walking around, some other students, and that's what we want to do. We want to introduce people to the industry, and that's what we do at Verticon.
Are you guys seeing I keep hearing pilot shortages, mechanic shortages.
Absolutely.
Is that something that is a real pandemic in our industry? That's a buzzword.
That is, it is a very critical issue. So it's actually one of our strategic initiatives as an association to work on workforce development. We have an industry advisory council for workforce development. As an association, we've put in great amount of time and resources into looking at that, setting up a number of different programs with some pathway programs in some states to bring high school kids into the industry. Legislation that we've been working on, there really is a full court press to build that pipeline. And what's more important than bringing in students into that pipeline is making sure they have a place to go.
Totally.
And so that pipeline needs to be on both sides.
Yeah. I think podcasts, I think social media, I think it's a great tool that we're able to use now.
Sure.
Because I think it's introducing the industry to people.
Absolutely.
Letting them know that, hey, you can come. You can be a helicopter pilot.
We need you. We need you. Please come. Exactly.
I'm a non-military guy, civilian trained. And I got lucky. I grew up in Oregon, Hillsboro Aviation at that time. Now
absolutely.
Hillsboro Heli Academy, which is a proud sponsor, as is VAI is a
Booths
sponsor
right
as
over
well.
There. Yeah.
That way.
That way. There we go.
Somewhere that way. They're great. I just kind of did a demo flight. It was just there, and I accidentally started flying helicopters.
That's great.
Here I am now.
Yeah.
But something that was hard for me, and it's actually continued to be hard for me, because I had great parents, but not wealthy parents.
Sure.
And so I had to take student loan out, and
Absolutely.
it was a private loan. I wasn't able to get like a government subsidized loan or anything like that. Not great interest, not great terms.
Absolutely.
Are you guys trying to help with some of the financial services as well?
Absolutely.
Of allowing people, because at the end of the day, you want to learn how to fly a helicopter on the civilian path, minimum $100,000, right? If not more, maybe a little less, but it's an expensive thing to do.
It is probably the biggest roadblock. Absolutely.
Yeah.
A couple different ways we're looking at some of the workforce development programs I was talking about with the pipelines, with pathway programs, looking at bringing more opportunities to kids in high school so they can get college credit in high school to further when they actually go, if they went the university route, right? If they can get those college credits done in high school, they'll get through their university program faster, right? Save some money on that end. On the finance side that you're talking about with the loans, we are absolutely working with in a larger coalition. This problem is also not unique to us. Our fixed-wing cousins also have the same problem. So we do work in coalition.
One would argue that they didn't help our problem.
Yeah, they're taking away our pilots. Yeah, exactly right.
Take from Peter situation.
That's exactly right. But when going to Congress, you need to have a broad coalition. Sure. And we've been working with them on some different pieces of legislation to try to tackle that financial piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big piece, right? I mean,
absolutely.
If you're younger or you don't have the finances to get in, we get a lot of second career folks as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not just age thing, but I at least tell myself as I still pay off my student loan, I'm under 10K. So I'm getting there.
That's a great job.
Yeah, it's been a doozy. First and foremost, if you take out a loan, understand the terms. I was 18 years old. I didn't understand what I was signing, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Second, people can spend $100,000 on a truck real fast, and that's a depreciable asset.
Exactly right.
That's not an investment.
That's right. It's not paying dinner.
Exactly. So I've always felt like, at least if you're going to spend that money, then it's giving you a career.
It's investing in yourself.
It's investing in yourself. Now, the caveat to that is a discussion that we had recently, and I'm sure that you guys are also very involved in this. I'm making some assumptions, but I think it's fair. Mm-hmm. We recently had a good discussion, myself and one of my buddies, Zach. We talked about salaries and helicopter pilot salaries. And I think some of the airlines taking from helicopter pilots were due to airlines offering a better package.
Sure.
At least it looked shinier.
Right.
In fact, I interviewed at the airlines. I got a job for the airlines. And then I ended up just selling helicopters full time instead. And that worked out fine. And I'm glad I didn't go that route.
I'm glad too.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm asking is, how involved are you in pushing the industry to maybe consider a better long-term financial path in regards to salaries? Because I'm passionate about that.
Sure.
And I can follow up, but I'm curious to hear what you have on that.
No, that's a great question. Part of our, we've had some workforce development committees that we put together, And that absolutely has been part of the conversation, is how can we compete better with the airlines? And look, we're not going to be able to ever compete with a certain type of package that they have.
Sure.
Our competitive advantage is who we are and what we do. Airlines are flying point A to point B. We're flying missions, right? We're attracting a different lifestyle, a different type of person who's attracted to that lifestyle. And as you mentioned, the financial package is something that we have discussed about how that can improve as an industry, and there's absolutely conversations to be had about that. But I think the culture, if you will, the lifestyle, the mission set of what you're doing as a helicopter pilot is also part of that allure.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. I think, especially in the beginning.
Absolutely.
But then long term, you get a little older, you might get married, start having kids, and then the picture changes a little bit. And so, yeah, flying a line under a helicopter is about as fun as you can have, right?
Right.
But then to a point, it's like, well, man, the airlines are offering this, and now I got a kid. So it all makes sense. My last job, I was flying air medical.
Right.
And I loved the mission.
Sure.
Not the nights, but I love the mission.
Right.
And actually, we should talk about that. I have some just curiousness on that. But one thing I didn't love was my compensation.
Exactly.
For flying a single-engine helicopter at nighttime in dark places, I felt like I wasn't compensated for the risk.
Right.
And that's actually one of the reasons I chose to do a different path. At first, it was airlines, and then that looked boring.
Sure.
I'd been kind of dabbling in selling helicopters. I'm like, I'll just go that route.
Right.
Sell helicopters. And luckily, it's worked out.
That's good. That's good.
But, it's just, even since I left, though, salaries have dramatically increased. I was maybe just bad timing.
Yeah.
Because now I'm talking to buddies, and they're, I'm getting paid this at Air Medical. I'm like, what?
Right. Right.
So it definitely seems like the industry is moving in the right direction.
Oh, sure.
And I understand that the resources of, say, a smaller operator aren't the resources of Delta.
Absolutely.
Or American. I understand that, right? But I do think, again, as important as airlines are to our economy,
sure.
And it's more obvious, right? They're obviously, they have a good PR.
Yeah.
They got some good PR.
Exactly.
And it just, I guess, I hope our elected officials can see that, and maybe it's helping with financing,
sure,
offering, even if it's still a loan, at least having a government loan, right? That's, I would have been able to reap some of the COVID benefits with a government loan, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the delayed payments and things like that. So it's interesting, and it's good to see that salaries are moving in that direction. Glad to hear that you guys are also advocating for that, because at the end of the day, you got to get paid, and it's important.
You got to look at the whole package, and that's part of the discussions that we've had.
Yeah, that's excellent. VAI.
VAI.
Used to be HAI.
Correct.
Which was the big announcement this year.
Correct.
I was there. Nicole stood on stage. She gave her speech.
Right.
I couldn't really hear it that well, so I didn't actually hear exactly I was in the back. I had bad hearing. That's another thing with aviation, I guess. I'm finding that recently. I'm leaning in to people. What did you say?
Right.
VAI, so Vertical Aviation International. Big change.
Correct.
And with change comes some difficulties, right? People, specific with people, right? People have opinions.
Change is change.
And change can be difficult.
Sure.
What is I'm curious to hear what led to that. What were the behind the scenes discussions regarding that? What has been the feedback since, and what are you guys very excited about regarding just the new rebranding into the Vertical?
We know you love helicopters. That's why you're here. But are you ready to make it a career? Hillsboro Heli Academy has been making dreams of flying helicopters come true since 1980. Visit us at flyhaa.com and dream big.
No, that's a great question. So I think
I appreciate you telling me I have great questions, by the way.
Well,
You're reinforcing
you do
me.
have great questions.
I'm over here like, God, what am I going to ask? I should prepare. That should be maybe that would I wouldn't feel so stressed.
Have an outline for yourself. Yeah, that's good. So credit goes to our membership, our board. They, as we were discussing earlier, right? We were started 75 years ago in California.
Crazy,
right? We've evolved. our membership saw the new technologies coming online, the new aircraft coming online, and we wanted to really unite the industry under one banner. And Vertical Aviation International is that banner for the entire industry. And so we're really excited about that opportunity to have one voice for the larger association. We've always been vertical aviation in the sense of helicopters are vertical, right? We're now just celebrating that capability and all aircraft that can do that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just hard to soak in sometimes, I feel like, right?
It takes a little bit of time.
It takes some time.
Yeah.
What has been the positive feedback, and what's been some of the negative feedback?
Quite frankly, we have received a lot of positive reception from that. I would say maybe some of the hardest is just as you said, hard to change, your habit of saying HAI, right? It's a matter of habit, which
I've actually been better this week.
Yeah. Right.
And now I'm here, and I'm screwing it up.
Yeah, what?
For the audience to see.
It's muscle memory, right?
Yeah, what can you do?
So I think the challenge has just been getting the message out there. We're still finding some people who didn't know about the rebrand.
Sure.
Making sure that all our stakeholders, our elected officials, know about the change, and that there's hurdles in making that broad announcement to the world. But the reception has been overly positive.
And what can we expect for Verticon this year?
Maybe some violins. I gotta go talk to my colleagues about that.
I'm just saying, it hit hard. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Maybe a couple violins.
Well, is the show going to be very similar? Or are you guys pushing other types of new kind of eVTOL and things like that to be more present at the show?
Sure, absolutely.
Or is it kind of going to be what we should expect for normal, previous HAI?
Yeah, we're always trying to bring new ideas, make sure that we keep it fresh, right? We want to provide a product that's good for the industry. We view it as we are serving the industry by providing Verticon for the industry to come together, to collaborate, to meet, to network. So that tool needs to be something that is of value to the industry. And so we're always looking for ways to make sure that it's fresh and it's meeting the industry's needs.
If you haven't gone to now Verticon, it's an incredible. If you're in this industry, you have to go. And I want to say it loudly because when I was not having my own business within the industry, I never thought of going. Right, I just wasn't my thing. And now that I've had the opportunity to come to not just European Rotors, but now 3 former HAIs, now VAIs, it's incredible the amount of networking, the people. My wife said it too. It's like you build these expo relationships. It's the people you see them once a year
at the
expo.
Exactly.
And it's like it's like you never left. You didn't skip a beat.
That's exactly right.
It's the one time. I mean, look, you're very much a minority in your normal day-to-day life as a helicopter pilot or a mechanic or whatever. It's not like we're all running around out there. I don't know what the percentage is, but it has to be very low percentage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's so cool. I call it helicopter dorks all together, right? We're all here talking shop. And that's actually the podcast was this idea of like, man, if I'm at a bar and I find out that you're in the helicopter business, like what do we talk about? That's actually why I don't outline because I want it to try to be, then I stress myself out, but I want it to be like a natural conversation. Yeah. And I think that's what you get here in these expos is you just get this excitement to talk. Especially, I'm in sales, right? So most of the time, sometimes people aren't very happy to talk to a sales guy.
Sure.
So this is the one time where they at least have to pretend to like talking to me.
You got some good swag there too, right?
Yeah, that's Vertical does great. I didn't bring any helicopter swag. I'm a horrible business owner.
Well, it goes to your point too, though. You said that your once a year meet up with your buddies there, right? That says something though. That once a year you're picking right back up from where you left off. Hopefully we want to make sure that some of those networks, those relationships are fostered throughout the year, but there's absolutely those connections. But I think it speaks to really the beauty of the vertical aviation industry.
My wife and I even recognize some of the GES employees that are setting up the show.
Great.
You know, the guy with the big hair. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
One of the things I was very fortunate at the past show, I was able to sit down and podcast with the CEOs of the industry here, of the OEMs at least. David Smith from Robinson, Bruno from Airbus, Brad from MD, and a consistent topic that they came up with, and this was like a new thing that I'm learning and I'm trying to understand and I get, is this idea of certification. I know that certification has been very difficult, right?
Sure.
2 years to create the new horizontal stabilizer design for the Robinson,
Right.
something that will arguably save lives, something that probably needs to move faster through a certification process. I believe I'm being told that Boeing hasn't helped our certification woes because now regulators are really batting down on OEMs, and that doesn't help. But I also know that there's a lot of other new players in the space, in the vertical space,
Sure.
with eVTOL and other things like that. What are you guys doing to help with certification and helping our regulators understand that, hey, we don't want to cut corners,
Right.
right? We can't make it an easier process,
Right.
but we have to have maybe a better process to ensure that things are getting certified. Because even some of this new technology, I think it's great. My concern is it's never going to get certified.
Sure.
So
Sure.
how do you mitigate?
Another great question.
Thank you. I was waiting for it. I like this guy. You can come on. Will you stay for my next podcast? Just sit over there in that chair and just
schedule
say, hey, good question.
There you go.
Thanks.
You're brilliant. So again, that's why VAI exists, right? We're working with our regulators. Part of the really is just there's an education process. There's also a resource. We're asking a lot of the regulators. Congress is asking a lot of the regulators. Part of what we just passed the FAA reauthorization bill, right? There's a whole litany list of things that the FAA now needs to do, making sure that Congress provides resources to the FAA so they can then implement all those needs.
I mean, I know it's very limited.
It is, and I think there's an important role to help provide those resources. But then there's also an important role that associations can play in helping provide resources, information into that process, and then helping the FAA, and actually not just the FAA, but other regulatory authorities, that harmonization across the world through ICAO and what we do here with the EASA, just that harmonization, making sure that our regulators have the information they need, and we're providing that support that we can. There's definitely interaction that needs to occur. It cannot be done in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And that's where I think associations have a very important role to play in helping feed that process.
I mean, yeah, certification's it's a sticky topic right now.
Absolutely.
And I think it's, to me, I see it as one of the biggest hurdles that we're facing as an industry.
Well, just, what was it, 2 weeks ago, the FAA introduced the SFAR for powered lift, right? So AEM could start moving forward.
Yeah.
That was an important step that the FAA took, and we really complimented them on that. Now it's 880 pages, so it took a little while to read through it.
Did you read it?
A colleague read it.
My assistant.
my dear colleague who I will be working with on that. But that process of developing the SFAR was done through a collaborative process of providing input.
Yeah.
And we congratulate the FAA on putting something through.
That's good.
In a good timeline.
It's good to see that movement. It's
Absolutely. But to your point of when you have businesses that want to bring product to the market, I get it. That there is a lot of heartburn, right? When you can't take your product to the market because you're waiting on more of a bureaucratic process, right? And so there definitely has to be improvements. There definitely has to be efficiencies, but there's a role that associations can play to help that move forward.
I mean, I think the whole Boeing thing, it just shows the importance of regulatory oversight.
It does.
Right? I think if you start to back off, you take the gas, we don't want to, I don't want to be regulated out the wazoo.
Sure. There's a balance.
But I understand the importance of regulation.
Sure.
And, we always talked about, reading the FAR Aim, for example. It's written in blood. That's what
Absolutely.
we say, right?
You're correct.
So for me, it's like, man, these regulations have some backs.
Right.
Some of them are a little silly.
Right.
I still think it's funny you can drop things legally, out of an aircraft.
Right.
Really.
You got to find the balance.
But yeah, I mean, I just find that regulation is important. I get concerned that A, we're not going to have new innovation because we can't certify fast enough, or B, we're going to rush things because of the pressure, because of the money, because of the people pulling the strings behind.
Sure.
That could then maybe make things easier.
Right.
And then maybe it's not good, right? Because you're moving too fast and you're not having the proper regulatory effort. So I'm very curious to see how the next few years go, because I think it's here. I think the future is very close to where we are right now, right?
Absolutely.
We're
Our
seeing
members
the
are doing it.
vehicles. I was recently up at a company in Vermont, Beta Air,
Sure.
doing some pretty incredible things.
Yeah, those are our members. The future is here.
It's
They've brought the future.
And it's not just in a hangar, it's flying.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
It's pretty incredible. So
indeed.
very curious to see. Transitioning a little bit back to you and your role. I'm sorry, you said 8 years that you've been here, or did I hear that wrong?
Coming up on 8. Yeah.
Coming up on 8. So in 8 years,
Blink of an eye.
what are some of the moments that you're proud of? Some of the things that you've personally been a part of that you think have moved the industry into a better spot?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Growing up in an aviation family, right? What I have enjoyed, literally my first day on the job, I'm finding out my issues that I'm going to work on, and it's the same stuff that I remember my dad complaining about when I worked with him. He'd come home from work complaining about it at the dinner table. I'm at working at the hangar with him, dealing with these issues. Now I get to help fix them, right? Really making a difference for the industry. That is, there's personal satisfaction in that, and I enjoy that. You can see the changes, the positive changes that you're making. There's been a number of legislative wins that we've done for the industry that I think have been very helpful. But if you're talking more from a humanity or personal thing, right? Some of the actually working with the students, the workforce development, bringing opportunities to kids for new opportunities in our industry, seeing their eyes light up with the future potentials for them. That is very rewarding when you can see you're seeing a difference in somebody because they're understanding their potential.
And those
in
kids
the industry.
that's the long-term investment right there.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's plenty of bills that we've helped push. There's plenty of bills that we've helped stopped. From an industry perspective, professionally, of course, those are all nice. It's nice to be seen as you're doing something effective for the industry. But if you're taking it to the human element, I would say personally, seeing that personal light in somebody where you're giving them their future, and you've introduced them to that's been truly rewarding.
I know that there's been some industry rumblings regarding specific operations in New York, Hawaii. What's happening in those areas right now? Can you talk about that? Like, what do we need to do as an industry to help support the effort of not? I guess who's mounting this and what do they want?
Great question.
What is their side of the story?
Yeah, so I keep saying it, but you keep asking great questions.
It's like I prepared.
Well, you mentioned New York, so that is a professional point where you're just asking, what are we proud of? We saved the heliport in New York, right? That was our effort to preserve that, and it's there because we took action.
Yeah.
If the association was not, this sounds like I'm patting myself on the back, but
Hey,
this is one of those things where this is why you have an association. Who else would speak up for you?
Yep.
No one else would.
Yeah.
And that heliport would have been gone. So that is a critical success that we've had. I think those areas that you mentioned, we have some areas within, from a domestic side and obviously global, where we have some community compatibility issues. And those are things that we as VAI have been working with our members to help improve. Whether that means you're changing routes, you're changing altitudes, you're changing maybe even the time of the day, right? It's how can our members work with their local communities to make a better impact? And then it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of really educating the public, really educating local officials on the sound of service of what we are doing, because they don't understand what we're doing. And at the end of the day, you still have complaints of next to the hospitals, right? The air medical folks someone's saving a child in the middle of the night and there's a noise complaint.
Yep.
I'm never going to be able to fix that.
You can't.
You're saving a child's life.
Yep.
We're going to make that call every day. But in other circumstances, are there ways that we can do small tweaks to help improve? And that concept of community compatibility is a vital, critical aspect that we use within the association. We have obviously Fly Neighborly program that we push. Those things are absolutely critical and frankly need to be learned at the flight school level.
I agree. It's easy to critique a lot of the people on the other side. I know I've been guilty of it. You move next to an airport or whatever
Right.
But the honest truth is that we all have a responsibility
absolutely.
to be equitable.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what life's all about, right? Is
Right.
trying to find a middle ground.
And that's our
And unfortunately, what we're seeing specifically with general aviation, specifically in states like California, I mean, look, they're losing airports. I think Santa Monica's dying soon, right? So to me, what that represents is that they might not have an organization, but they have a big enough group of people to
Correct.
make things happen.
That's correct.
And to me, that's scary. And so to me, I changed my tune. You know, I agree with flying neighborly. I want to fly neighborly.
Right.
I don't want to be part of the problem.
Right.
I got to be part of the solution.
Exactly.
So if you are listening, please help. This is an industry issue that we can all actually help with. Is a better image, and we can't just say, well, screw them.
The regulations allow me to do this. You need to have a bigger view.
Yeah, and I try to put myself in the shoes of that person
absolutely.
that's trying to get a good night's sleep. You know,
Right.
I hate getting woken up. I get
Right.
it.
Right.
I get that frustration.
Exactly right.
You know, how can we treat it in a better way? Before we wrap up, curious to hear just about what you would say to someone that's maybe considering membership with VAI. Maybe they're on the fence. Maybe now they know more about the program, so maybe they're more inclined. But what do you say to those people that are maybe on the fence of joining the organization as they don't know if maybe it's a person and they don't know, does it really represent me?
Yeah. Great question.
Hey.
This is your home. Come home. Come home. We are a member association, right? We're providing benefits to our members, whether you're an individual pilot, individual mechanic, company. Our job is to provide member services to you. One of our most important roles that we do is, as we mentioned earlier, with Verticon and that networking, the education, the workforce development, but we also have advocacy. And where we are representing you, we need your voice to be able to more correctly and appropriately advocate for you.
Sure.
You could be a part of that process. Yes, you could sit by and you can allow me to advocate for you without your support, but allowing you to come in and be part of that process, and you're helping develop how I'm going to advocate for you, that makes it stronger and that makes it much more effective. And then, as we talked about earlier, all the other opportunities for members, whether it be through the regulatory process, through education, the safety programs, safety alone, the programs we have there is a worthwhile reason to join. So, especially as a student pilot or whatever coming in to the industry, having that bedrock foundation of safety, we can provide that for you. Well-established companies, we also have safety programs. SMS is now a new mandate, right?
Yep. Big
all
deal.
sorts of new programs that we have to help those companies meet those mandates. But at the end of the day, as an association, we are representing you. We need your voice. We need your participation so that we can better advocate and represent you.
Makes sense. All right. Before we end, I'm going to go there. But again, we got to keep it politically uncharged.
Politically uncharged.
But today is a big political day.
It is indeed.
And it sounds like there's going to be some changes. I haven't looked at the news recently, but when I looked earlier, it seemed like that Trump was probably going to win.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Does that change anything for you guys when there's a new transition into a president? And keep the players out of it. Just
Sure.
President
the
A
process.
leaves,
Yeah,
and now
absolutely.
it's President B. Is that good? Is it bad? Is it frustrating? You know, what is your guys' stance?
Oh,
Not politically, like
no, right,
not a
right.
personal political.
I was just going to say that the frustrating part is that you have new players, right? You just spent all these years developing relationships,
Yeah.
and now you got a new cast of characters, right?
Totally.
So really, from an election standpoint, what you have is just that. You now have to create new relationships with the new leadership. And as new, whether it be a DOT or FAA or congressional level, committees, staff change, right? There's a people leave, people come in.
Yeah.
It's getting them to know you and being able to provide resources that they need. So it will be a very, as I mentioned, the bags under my eyes there.
You've been watching this.
Yeah.
My bags are because I can't sleep. Jet lag is killing me right now. It's like, come on.
Right.
I fall asleep, great,
Right.
9:30, and then I'm wide awake at 3.
Exactly.
So I was actually watching the news too. Well, Cade, thank you so much for coming on. I
Thank
felt
you
like
for
I
having
learned
me.
so much. I feel like I'm more educated on VAI myself now.
Thank you for being a member.
Get involved, guys. If you're listening, if you're new to helicopters, again, come home. Come to the
Come
family.
home, reach out to us.
VAI
That's
is
right.
here to support us as an industry, and you should consider membership. Again, it helps everything, and so we all have a commitment to help each other, help this industry get better. So, Cade, thank you so much, and of course,
you.
thanks to VAI for being a sponsor of the Helicopter Podcast. I'm
Appreciate
honored
it.
and thrilled.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
sir.
bud.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
See ya.
At Astronautics, we're aviation problem solvers. With over 60 years of OEM and retrofit experience, bring us your toughest avionics, connectivity, cybersecurity, and system challenges. We'll work with you to find an innovative, reliable, and quality solution. We turn problems into solutions. Visit us at astronautics.com.
We know you love helicopters. That's why you're here. But are you ready to make it a career? Hillsboro Heli Academy has been making dreams of flying helicopters come true since 1980. Visit us at flyhaa.com and dream big.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.